I think that's my cue. How you doing?
Hello. Well, all good. Just yeah, just had a really good one. Looking forward to start another one.
Yeah, I feel like you ended on a really interesting. You were about to say something really interesting about the way that body language shows up over Zoom, and I'd be really interested to hear that.
Oh well, it just if you get a good glimpse of eyes rolling or I mean immediate disappointment. People are not really holding back because they don't feel they are really observed. And so I was falling into that trap once during a workshop. There was a presentation going on. The presentation was actually really horrible, and I found myself like, no, because I saw no human being here, only the initials on a Teams meeting, and uh, and so my body was not telling me like you should behave accordingly, and I was feeling like I am alone watching TV instead. And okay, so I was always like this, and then I realized, oh, my camera was on. Okay, well, diplomacy was gone, but even meetings with my colleagues. Yes, I don't see proximity. I don't see how people are moving, getting close to their friends, but you see a lot more in the faces now. It just this is the
That's so interesting, and I feel like that leads to the conversation around like should you have your video on? Like should you be able to see your own video when you're talking? So some tools they like default to either a really small image of you just so that you know it's on, or like in Google Meet and things, or no image of you. You can turn it completely off, or like Zoom, the default is you're kind of right in your own face when you're speaking unless you change it.
yeah. I
Um,
realize I might be a little bit more clownish if I'm seeing myself, because
yeah.
then I get into the mirror thing, and it's actually a mirror with a couple of milliseconds of delay, so it's weird for the brain. It's just like
Yeah.
there's a person I know. I try not to look at this person, but then I realize, oh, maybe.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Yeah. The readjusting of the clothing, you know, they're looking at themselves, right? It's like
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But it's funny. I find like there is a lot to lose over being not in like being remote is we're losing like for example, I want to chat with you more about event storming and things like one of the pieces I feel like I'm missing is that ability to like brainstorm with physical reminders that they're not permanent. So like the idea of like crinkling up post-it notes and things like that just isn't there in physical. And I'm interested to see how that goes. But one thing I do find positively about it is I know I feel like I've been able to have harder conversations than I feel like I would have been able to in person. Something about the like distance while still like this is the conversations have always been with video on, so like I can see the person, I can see how they react to things I say, I can see how they're feeling to a certain extent, but also like I feel almost like I'm a bit safe, like I have that ability to like project an idea out there that like if everything were to go wrong, I close my laptop and it's like I'm safe, I'm in my house, right? And it's never come to that, like it's never been that way, but there's something about that distance that actually has empowered me to provide feedback and to raise ideas that maybe I would have shied away from in person. So I think there are some positives as well to it.
I I totally think there are some positives. I think I have been. I stopped looking for replacement of the thing I was missing, and instead, okay, let's think about what else we can get. It was actually interesting what you were saying about like having something disposable and short living, because yes, it might actually affect people like this is gonna stay forever. And then, well, actually, when you play with mirror, you realize that just it takes somebody dragging things away, and it's not exactly stable building. Uh, but uh, but yes, it does affect the feeling of short living, different conversation. I never felt about the need to, I mean, the safety of the conversation. Maybe because a lot of the things that I do on Zoom are also trainings. So people have already paid for that, and then escaping feels like,
They
oh,
engage. Yeah.
I need to refund those people. No, that's something that you can't. Uh, but um, but yes, it does really change the mindset, the attitude, and for somebody, I think it's probably even better not to feel the pressure of other people looking at you. It might be just like we are just on the same space. We are modeling things together. There's only one conversation going on, and in so many moments which are really, really quiet, which doesn't happen in reality. I mean, only sometimes during the workshop, there's something like 10, 15 minutes at the beginning, which are silent, and then it's a continuous conversation. While doing it online, there's so many moments where people are just focusing on their own stuff, which is good and bad. It's the thing that we don't know is how much screen are they seeing. So in a physical environment, you see the whole room. You can get close so that you can read, or you just like take a seat and observe the whole scene. But you're always in there. While zooming in mirror, and just like, oh, then everything else is completely obscure to me, and this has
That's really
effects.
interesting.
And
Yeah. That's really interesting. I think that perspective, that ability to glean information from around you is one of the biggest things that was spoken about early on in work from home life.
yeah,
Because that was the thing that everyone said you can't recreate in quite the same way.
yeah,
And yeah.
yeah. Actually, is I think is bigger is the lack of context. I mean, if you're having a conversation right now in the same office, it just like it also means that we are looking and seeing the same thing. We can relate,
Mhm.
and now this context is gone, and but then part of my brain is thinking like, oh, okay, we are colleagues. We've been in the same situation. What it was not the same situation. My situation was, yeah, maybe here, maybe at home, and the other person was in the same meeting with the kids screaming. This person was not really in the same meeting. And uh, and then we are just diverging in the way we see reality inside an
Mhm.
organization, or we need to accept that common context is a very tiny fraction and only happens on Slack and Zoom, but not in a physical space, in the little habits, in the little way to say hi in the morning. This is lost and maybe not even recoverable. So um, that might be something. And also I just thought about it before joining. This is making uh, every company replaceable. So what is a company? It's not a building. It's not the restaurant just in front. It's not the pub where we have the beer after the work. A company is a group of people chatting on Slack and having a meeting on Zoom. If I switch company, I'm just switching the faces in the Zoom grid. What is making me stay in a given organization? What is this force? We need to reinvent this, I think. And
Yeah, I think it's probably still the same stuff. It's just how you achieve them, right? It's that ability to have ownership. It's that ability to have influence. It's that feeling of belonging and of value at the organization and all of that still matters. Um, it's funny. I actually did change jobs during. Sorry, my dog is coming to say hi. I did change jobs during this time. I changed over the summer, and it's been an interesting experience because the things I really valued at my last job, I feel like it was that recreating of what I had in the office. Like I had this amazing team, like fairly large team that I worked on that was super collaborative, and we generated the kind of feeling that we had in the office by doing an always on call. So it wasn't Zoom, but
okay,
an always on video call where the concept was headphones on, microphones off. So if you ever needed somebody's attention, you could just turn your microphone on and be like, hey, can anyone help me with this problem? And then everybody that was in the room could hear you. And then you could decide, is that something you want to talk about in the room? Or is that something you want to break out into something else about? Just like you would in an office, right? Like,
Yeah.
shout out, can I get some help? Whatever. It also made for like a connection with people, because like my dog Zeno would come and say hi, or they'd see him in the background doing something funny and they'd laugh or whatever, right? And that was okay. And that was actually desirable for that team because we had built that relationship in person. So what could feel really intrusive of like, you mean you have your camera on all day at home, like actually was right for that group of people.
Yep.
But I would say at organization level, they struggled a bit to create the culture that was based around beers on Fridays and lunches and, you know, those kinds of things. Versus I think at my new company, I don't have that in-person experience. So while I crave it to some extent, actually I've built that in different ways of getting to know people one-on-one. And the company has made me feel far more connected to it as a culture than I was to my old company, because they're so creative with how they engage people. And so, yeah, I would say that in my experience, there's very differences between those two companies based on how they handle things.
Cool. And
yeah,
now I'm actually trying to do the official job and ask you
oh yes,
about the three questions. Talking about the wonderful future. What might be the stories you would like to see and hear? Maybe we are already, getting into this type of mood, but maybe something different.
yeah. I think I was giving that a bit of thought, and I tried to think of like within my field of expertise, even as part of that, right? And like what field do I want to focus on? Because I feel like a lot of my interests and a lot of my experience has been about bridging communities, and I think that that's still, so maybe that is around the bridging of communities that I want to see continue to be important and continue to be invested in. So one of the things I talk a lot about is around, I've been using this term recently. I can't remember where I picked it up, but democratization of data gets spoken about a lot in the industry. And I've been using it recently to talk about the desire to like allow people to access all the same data, all the same information when making decisions, and when understanding context. And I think you talked about this as well, like distributed wisdom in the last conversation, right? So I think figuring out how to do that well, though, because I don't think we do that well now. Right now, I feel like we pendulum swing between full stack engineer that needs to know everything, including business and marketing and all that, to like and a business person who needs to be able to comment on tech debt and all those things, all the way through to the other side, which is like, no, we need specialists, like, you know, people need to be able to hone their craft and that kind of thing. So yeah, I don't know how to fit in the middle there, but I think figuring out how to tackle that problem better is something I'd love to see.
Yeah, no, that's I don't think it has a stable state. Like
No.
you said, like it's a pendulum swinging, maybe just too much force into one mythological creature, the full stack developer, and then, oh no, we need specialists. No, that's
Hey you. Hey you. Sorry about that.
there's something in
Yeah,
between.
no, it's mythological, right? Like the idea that it's the idea that you can do everything, and that's good. So it's I don't know, that's kind of actually a conversation we're having right now, and I think you were touching on it a bit with how to learn and how people learn, and that you can't learn from being told what to do. You kind of have to touch the hot stove. You kind of have to make those mistakes, and it's like, so I feel really often quite lucky that I started my career as a consultant, because what I've realized is that like consulting is what we all do. Like it can have a bad connotation, like you're trying to like you're trying to that you're trying to manipulate someone, right? When you're doing it. But actually, I think where consulting is at its best is when you're meeting someone in their challenges, and you're trying to get into their shape, into their shoes, into what they're feeling, and find a way out with them, right?
Yep.
And I think that, like, yeah, that's such a key part. And I think that we often need to work on that consulting skill, that consulting muscle, even just to teach lessons within our own teams, to share those learnings of the big outage that happened last year, or the reason we don't architect our system in that way, or the reason we
Yep.
do code reviews in the way that we do, or whatever the like small aspect is, right?
Yeah. Actually, you said one thing before, like being told what to do is exactly. I mean, it happens to consultants too, but I don't consider this to be at all the thing. Like uh, half of what I do in the consulting is probably making it clear that I'm not doing what you're asking me. Just like, because your question is already part of the problem. So we will need to ask why you're asking me this. What is the real problem? What could I do instead? Otherwise, I'm just one extra worker in your problem creation engine. And yeah, so that being given a list, no, doesn't really work. At the second time,
How do you get that? Or sorry, go on, finish
no,
that.
no. The second thing is just as a consultant, you can work in places where you could never work as an employee. Because you're getting the problem, but you don't get in the politics. And
Yeah.
so just like, oh yeah, it's so great, you have so much patience. No, it's just like I am out of your games, so I can focus on this. And well, somebody proposed, wow, we really would like to hire you. Not at all. I have no intention of staying here. This place is so dysfunctional. Can I solve this? Yes. Can I solve that? Yeah, I don't think so, but that's not what I would like to do in the longer term. And but this gave me safety. Like, no problem. You don't like what I'm doing. Well, this is my bag. I'm saying goodbye tomorrow. I'm not trapped here. I am here, but I'm not trapped. And then I have the bargaining power to do the right thing.
Mm.
And this was a
Yeah.
huge switch from okay, this I think this is the good part of consulting. And just it's not going to be like this forever.
It's so funny because my experience as a consultant, and I started as a consultant very early in my career. So it's not very fair to compare my first year as a consultant to, my first year as a full-time employee, because I wasn't at an equivalent level of industry experience, of influence, of responsibility, and all that. But actually, I was a consultant for 6.5 years. And I actually, it's going to make me sound like I'm a failure here, but like I never actually saw an organization change to continuous delivery. I introduced continuous delivery with new projects, and I improved the delivery pipeline of, sprint based delivery or some other version of delivery, like branch based deployments and things like that. But like the money maker heart of a business, if it wasn't already continuously delivered, I never was a part of a consulting team that changed that. And I know there are teams that have done that, and my friends have done that. Like it happens, but myself as an individual went in full time at an organization as a full time employee, and I, in some ways, was working as a consultant hat, in the sense that I saw a bigger picture, and I understood that it would involve an array of people. Like it wasn't just myself. It wasn't just even just engineers. It was business people. It was product people. It was customer service people. Like we had this like wide impact, but actually was able to make that change because I think because I was permanent there, I was able to build certain bridges. And so there's this tug and pull of full-time and external consultant that can, again, pendulum. And it's nice to get experiences as both, right? So
And it's
yeah, but yeah, go on. Yeah.
No, it's, I remember in one organization I've been consulting for a long time, and well, changes were happening, but then something was kind of stalling, and then said like, well, I'm actually ending end of the year, and then one person said like, oh, we gotta talk. I was sitting next to your desk for the last 3 months. No, we gotta talk now because suddenly the urgency was created, and we started having the conversation only because they realized that I had the time box, and okay, we need to talk about this thing. And so
Yeah.
it's really weird that there's so much hidden psychology in this. Yeah, if you're there every day, looks like okay, I can talk to you tomorrow, easy,
Yeah.
and then tomorrow never comes. And uh,
I'm so curious back to the conversation or the comment you made earlier around like you're not there to answer their question, you're there to figure out their problem and then help answer that problem, right? Or then help solve that problem with them. What are some of the ways that you bring people to that problem? Like I think obviously it's partly event storming, but like how do you get people started on that journey and get that
this
output?
happens first. I don't know exactly. I don't think I have a solution except repeating this sentence to myself because as a human being with goodwill and yeah, given education, people are asking you a question. You feel like the polite way is to give an answer, and then
Yeah.
no, an answer is the wrong action here. Like and one thing is coming straight from Jerry Weinberg's Secret of Consulting. The person inviting you is part of the problem. It's not going to be part of the problem for the first maybe couple of weeks, but then you will realize that yeah, you will have to have that conversation. And in general, my attitude is I try to be nice, but I don't trust anybody. People are lying to me in good faith. It's part of the problem. I don't trust any single artifact. So I actually stopped looking at them like let's build our own wisdom in the moment. And this is probably a little bit more honest, and at least it's just not outdated. This is what you are today. But in general, is no, I get in a defensive mode in commercial conversation already. Like I would like you to do this. No, what is your problem instead? And then even if they tell me the problem is no, maybe not the problem. We ask for pain points, and then okay, so the problem might be that and that, and we pick a little bit around it. But if yeah, I just cannot be an executor. Like it's
Yeah.
also the, let's say if I execute right and I don't deliver is because the task was wrong, but then I will be ineffective. If
Still doesn't feel good if
so
that's the case,
yeah,
right?
like
Yeah.
no, I need to pick the right task, and just like it takes time to build the confidence to not to fall into the trap because we are wired to be polite and to, oh, well, can we do this? Oh, yes, we can. And then I say, but I'm not sure this would be a good idea. Also verbally, like, well, yes, that's it is doable. Yes, absolutely doable. But yeah, kind of terrible idea. Just um, yeah,
That
not
would be in itself like such an amazing future, right? Like so one of the things that I'm working on currently with my team is defining kind of longer term success criteria for our team. So there's this idea of like mission statements, right? And those are great. And we have a great one and I feel really comfortable with it. But it doesn't help guide my day-to-day work so much, right? Like yes, I can always map my work back to it, but like I can't make decisions on like when is good enough based on it. And I can't make decisions on like how to prioritize my work at the smaller scale based on that. And so I've gotten into a habit of kind of setting in like as myself and as a team, setting kind of a North Star, a success statement, whatever words you want to use, guiding light that is like a tangible outcome that you could like write on a postcard home to say like, I've achieved this year. Like, this is like the state of my team or my organization or, my work, which then I can use when I'm actually talking about the more short-term work. So it's conversations like, so an example of one in the past that I've had is empower developers to confidently test in production, confidently and safely test in production, right? Now, that's not a mission statement for a team. That's not a goal for an organization, but it's like a success criteria that we think would enable those other things. So it would enable faster delivery. It would enable more connection with our users to get better feedback from them. It would enable these things that we know we care about. Why aren't we doing that today if we know it would help us to reach that mission? Well, we're not doing that today because we don't have certain maybe tooling in place. So now all of a sudden I've got this, I no longer have to think about my backlog. It just drops in front of me. Like, I'm like, oh, we don't do that right now because we don't have a safe way to roll back changes when they're bad. We don't want to be moving faster if we can't roll back or feel like we can get to a stable position if it's roll forward safely. Like, cool, that's an action item, and yeah. And so I think, how do we build that for even individual contributors and not just the senior leadership at the organization is like, I think key to enable creativity from all levels of the organization and not just the high levels.
We've been doing something similar, just like a quick road mapping. I mean, there's a team that had surprisingly the similar vision of the future. A very large code base, a lot of stuff in there. So they had kind of similar way of seeing the future state. And then, we started doing something like a reverse story. How do we get there? Which are the steps that we need? And we took away some of the things that was a good thing to do, but with no clear relationship with the outcome. And then suddenly we ended up, it was similar to a future perspective in some ways.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
But this step now is leading you in the right direction, because if you have so many things to do, then I'm stuck into choosing. Okay, so for the next 3 months, this and this and this. I mean, if you have the chance, there's no reason not to do it. But these and these are the things that are on the path to make a significant change.
Mostly there's limiters to time, to energy, to all those things, investment, right? So yeah, I think, and that to me is like a great example of it, right? Because you were able to make sure that the people in that conversation understood what you were trying to achieve. It was no longer that you needed these 5 things. It was that you want to have this experience or this business capability or whatever it is. And when you start, and then you've like engaged the creativity of like, oh, well, I can do that with this. Like, oh, I can do all that with a Shopify website that I don't need a team of 50 engineers to build. Like, what is the differentiator between using Shopify and using this custom website? Like, oh, that's the thing I was missing. Now I have the context. Let's go back to that idea of a custom website and let's make sure we're focusing on that deliverable, that differential. But I don't think anyone in a like e-commerce world says, oh, let's change from using what we currently use, complex system to Shopify, because I don't think people feel empowered to be creative about things like that because they don't always understand like where the business goals are and where the differentials are.
I don't know if well, empowered is clearly one thing. The other thing is one of my sentences that I repeat over and over is people are afraid of breaking invisible things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I would change it to Shopify, but I'm not sure. I mean, what wires am I touching? And in the meanwhile, I'll wait because I need explicit permission and commitment. Mm-hmm. And this is coming from other people that don't know all the wires, and so they wait, and so nothing happens. And that is the one of the major blocker. I mean, empowerment is one thing, but you need also safety. And which comes from understanding the wires. There's nothing attached to this box. Let's throw this box away. Okay.
Yeah.
Safe.
Yeah. It's that we had to fight through that to get to continuous delivery. We had a 2-week testing period. What do we use it for? I don't know, but we need it. Like.